Hi, Book 2, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I'm finally filming my reviews for the first 2 books of the year. So, this is my review of Legends and Lattes by Travis Baltree. This was adorable. I love this. It's so cozy and atmospheric. It's a fantasy story, but with low stakes, as it says on the back. So we have our main character, Viv, who, now it says that she's an orc in the book, but look at this girl. Doesn't she look like Fiona or Shrek? She looks like an ogre. She does not look like an orc. When I think orc, I think of what the Lord of the Rings adaptations have as an orc. I don't think about green-skinned, muscular, humanoid type. So I'm just gonna call her an ogre. And I don't think that I'm the only one. I've seen other people refer to her as an ogre. So she has decided she must retire from this life of violence and bounty hunting and wants to open up a coffee shop. Something that she recently discovered was a gnome creation. And the only problem is, though, when she gets to the town where she decides to open up her coffee shop, no one there's heard of coffee before. But that doesn't stop her from opening it up. And she ends up finding new friends. But of course, things get complicated because there is a group of people who call themselves the Madrigal, or they work for the Madrigal, and this person collects the money of the businesses in this town before those people can save up the money for themselves. And Viv does not want to pay this person. And on top of that, an old acquaintance of hers is suspicious of her success and thinks that has suspicions that she's using a particular, I think it's a stone or something, I cannot remember, that gives her luck or makes it easier for her to do what she wants to do. So this was such a cozy, fun read. It reminded me of a Hallmark movie, except for with like fantasy creatures and in a fantasy world. There is even a romance in the story, which I thought was really sweet. And it didn't take over the plot for people who aren't big into the romance. It doesn't dominate the plot, but it's this cute romance with Viv and a succubus named Tandri. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. And both of them, what's great is that they both want to change their reputations. They want to prove that they're more than just what people see them as. So they really connect on that level. And they're just adorable together. I love watching them. They really care about each other and respect each other. There's one point when Tandri has an old a guy that's been harassing her and thinking that she likes him, and is like, you seduced me and everything. When he shows up to try to get with Tandri, it's Viv who defends her. And even if Viv didn't have feelings for her, I think she still would have defended her, because that's the kind of person Viv is. She cares about the people that she makes friends with and that become part of her family. She cares about them. She will fight for them and will defend their honor. And I also like how Viv has a personality like, ogres, orcs, especially orcs are just seen as the sidekicks. The orcs are just the lackeys for the bad guys, and they're like grrr, violence. And then you have ogres that are seen as lovable doofuses and maybe a little scary. Actually, in fact, I had this book out when my nephew was saying that when they were visiting for Christmas, and I had this book out. Actually, it's like after Christmas technically. They were visiting, and I had this book out on the table, and my 7-year-old nephew looked at it and was asking me about it, and he's like, "What's this?" And I told him that, I said an ogre. Well, I think I said orc, but I said she's kind of like an ogre, and he said it was scary, and I thought that was kind of like, that made me smile a little bit because, like, I thought it was kind of funny that I thought it was kind of cute that he's 7, of course. So of course for him this is kind of scary, like a scary image, but for someone like an adult, like who knows this isn't real, it was I was like whatever. But I think it's just kind of cute that he was a little scared, and if that makes any sense. Like I'm not trying to mock my nephew or anything for being scared. I just think it was really sweet, and I don't know if I'm making any sense, but anyway, which I love that the artwork on the cover, it looks very like 90s cover, like a 90s or 80s cover, maybe more 90s. The art style, the US cover. And this is one of the times where I actually am glad I prefer our cover over the UK cover. A lot of times I like the UK covers over the US covers. But I like the US cover in our case. Which is actually one of the reasons why, like, even though as much as I love US covers for certain books, I would have to wait until they get here. So if I want to buy it right then and there, then I just, it's like, I don't care. I want to buy it, and I'm not going to be picky about the cover. But yeah, that's why I don't always try to order specific covers, because then I have to wait until it gets here. And even though it can be kind of fun waiting, there are certain times when I want to read it like right then and there, and I don't want to wait. But anyway, but yeah, this is so, and I really enjoy watching the progress of how she creates this business with Tandri and the other characters, and also the part where they end up turning this coffee shop into also like a cafe where they have all these sugary treats in it. So I was like, it just made me hungry. The delicious foods that are described, and they come up with their own names for them, and it's stuff that we in the real world have, which and it just made me like hungry. And actually I kind of liked the names of the items better in here than what we call them in our world. Now I couldn't remember the name of I know there was one item in here that for the life of me, I cannot remember what it's called in our world, but I knew what it was. I had an idea of what it was. I just cannot remember the name of it in our world. But in this book they call it thimblets, because they name it after their baker, the ramekin that they have, which I still don't know what a ramekin is. There's some creatures like that I still don't, I have a hard time picturing what they look like, because I don't know. And I don't know if this is the author's creation or there is a creature like that exists in other fantasy stories. But I think it's called a ramekin. I think that's what they called it in the book. But anyway, that was but it was fun to read about all that, creating all the baked goods, and then watching them come real, like all the different things that happen to their building that make it like where they have to fix things, and all the watching Tangerine come up with the finding ways to get the business started, advertise, and get people coming in, and like when they hired a singer, like a bard, to come in and sing for the people, and they had one character that was a student from the academy, the local school, and he just comes in to do his work, and they're giving him a hard time because he doesn't order anything, so they're all annoyed with that. And it turns out he doesn't like hot drinks, he prefers them cold, so they eventually come up with the concept of an iced coffee. And it's just it was really fun to watch that whole progress of that, all the different and relating relate to what we have in the real world. I also like the magical character. They were fun. They at first they seem intimidating, but as you get to know that, when Viv finally meets the magical, they're actually not that bad. she tries to, and it's a woman actually, and she tries to pass it off as making herself intimidating, and for some people she still is. But there's a mutual respect that her and Viv develop, and it's all, the story is just so much fun. Was so much fun. It's a very fast paced story. I mean, it's a slow, but it's not a long story. So actually, it's not fast paced. It's slow paced, but it's not too slow. And it's just a fun story. And I wish there had been more, but I believe I've heard that the author is writing another book soon, and there is a little bit of a prequel story that, is about the events that lead up to Viv wanting to retire and open up the coffee shop. Like I said, the romance is really sweet. And it's just so good. So I don't know what to say about this. I just really enjoyed this. But yeah, this was really great. I know that a lot of you probably heard about this book. For me personally, I agree with everyone else. It's a great book. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the other book I kept going back and forth between if I want to do them together, these reviews together, because I didn't have a lot to say about this. And obviously, it doesn't mean, it's just, I just didn't have a lot to say. And that doesn't mean I don't, I obviously love the book, as I just said, but it's kind of hard for me to, if I love this book and have no negatives, then I don't always have a lot to say about a book because I just love it. I mean, there might be some books I love that I have more to gush about, but in this case, I don't have a lot to gush about. I just really enjoyed the book. But anyway, so do I do separate reviews or do I do them in the same video? I kept going back and forth, and I think now that I'm here and filming, I'm going to do them in the same video. So the next one has nothing to do, there's no thematic similarities between the two books. There's really nothing in common. The books, they just have, the only similarities that they're both fantasy. Although this one has a bit of a historical fiction feel as well. And that is The Wolf, the first book in, I believe, what's going to be a trilogy. Or is a trilogy, because I think he wrote all the books are out, or one of them is coming out soon. I'll have to double check on that. But this was actually good, really good. This one, along with the other one, that's the other thing that they have in common. They're both debuts, and both authors did other stuff before they published books, before they decided to write their first books. But this is kind of a Viking-esque story. It takes place in this wilderness area. I think Albion is what the place is called. I'm not sure. But you have the Anakin and then the Southerners. And the Anakin are the natives of this world, and the Southerners had just arrived. I mean, they didn't just arrive, they've been there for a while, but they were still kind of new, and the cultures are very different, the beliefs are different, and they have been at war with each other for years. So the book starts with another war between the Anakin and the Southerners, and the Anakin are led by Kynortes. I don't know if I'm saying it right. He's the Black Lord of the Anakin, and then you have this upstart, as they refer to him, Bellamus, who is fascinated by the Southern. He's very intrigued with their way of life. He's fascinated by them, but he also is leading the army to fight against them, and I think he wants to help enslave them. And once they win. So right away, during the first war, Kynortes is killed, and his 19-year-old, I don't know if he's 19 or 20-year-old son Roper, has witnessed this, and he is now to become the Black Lord. But he has a rival with I just knew his name. What was his name? I just knew it. What was that character's name? Uverin, a rival who is this great badass warrior. He's a great warrior. And of course, in this, amongst these people, the Anakin, being a warrior says a lot about you as a person and if you are a good leader or not. And Roper is not the best warrior. In fact, after he witnesses his father's death, he is so traumatized and knows that they can't defeat the Southerners at this time. So he calls them off. He calls them to retreat, and this pisses off his people. They think that he is not a worthy leader because of this, and that he's a coward. And Uverin takes advantage of this because he wants to be the leader. He wants to be the Black Lord, and he's like, just because you are the heir does not mean you deserve this role. And so we have that conflict, and we also still have the ongoing war between them and the Southerners. And Roper needs to gather allies and prove himself, because there are some people who would think that Roper was the better option as long as he earns the role, because they do not want Uverin to be running the kingdom and being the next Black Lord. And like I said, I think this was a really good debut. I mean, there were some things about it I didn't like. The only criticism that I can think of, and I'm sure if you look at other reviews, I'm sure there were probably other things that people don't like about it, but I only can think of one thing, which is that the one female lead, there wasn't much to her character. I mean, she had a lot of potential as a character. You knew she was smart and clever, and she manipulates Uverin, because Roper, when they have to go to war again, Roper decides that for now he's going to let Uverin run things while he's gone with the army, knowing full well that when he gets back, if he gets back, that Uverin will be prepared to fight him and not let him back through the gates. And his wife, Ketera, Roper's new wife, Ketera, kind of manipulates Uverin, especially because she knows that Uverin wants to, hook up with her and everything. And, so she manipulates him, and, knowing full well, he desires her. And she also, later on in the story, she goes and gathers up some information about these people who are keeping an eye on Roper, the Cryptia, I think they're called, and are if you don't do your job well, we're gonna kill you kind of mentality. And so she later on ends up keeping an eye on them by finding out information. So those are the good things that she does, and like I said, she does have an intriguing personality. She does play her role as the warrior's wife really well. But then she ends up she gets poisoned. So the problem with her character, I think, is that I don't know if I'm correct, but I feel like this is also an example of fridging, where the female character that's the love interest or the spouse, the wife of the male character, is hurt or killed or something for the sake of character development for the male character. And so that was a little disappointing, and I really hope that Lee Carew does more with her character in books 2 and 3, that she gets more development, she gets more to do, and it was just disappointing. Her character was just kind of disappointing in that way, because she had potential. She was an intriguing character, but we did get a lot of page time with her character. But anyway, that's really the only problem I have with the book. Other than that, I really enjoyed it. The battle sequence was awesome and gruesome and gory, and but not too much, not over the top. It worked well for the story, so clearly this guy knows how to write battle sequences that are riveting, exciting, and intense. I didn't know what was going to happen. The characters, Roper and Uverin, and also the characters in Bellamist and the Gray and can't think of the other guys' names. The other two characters that kind of were trying to help. Roper, be a better leader. All these characters were great and compelling. There's just enough of their personality to make you intrigued and to make you like them, or really hate them with passion. Like Uverin, could not stand him. He was such an arrogant ass. And also it begs the question of who is the better leader. What does it take to be a good leader? That was really interesting because you have these this warrior race and these two guys, and one of them is clearly the better warrior. Uverin is the better warrior. He's powerful and strong and has won a lot of battles, and you have Roper, who's just a naive kid who's very emotional. Like, he just witnessed his father's death, and he's, struggling with that. But Uverin has a temper, and he's good on the battlefield. He's great. He's a great warrior. But is he a good leader? Like, he has a temper, and, he is good at, wooing people onto his side, winning people over. He is charming, charismatic. He can, he can be friendly and, gain your trust and alliance from you, while at the same, but will he, once he gets the job, once he gets the leadership role of the Black Lord, the question is he going to be a good, will he be there for the people? Does he genuinely care about the people? And you're told time and again that he only cares about himself. He is very vain and egotistical and thinks he knows what's best. There's a couple times when it's like he thinks we should do it this way and won't listen to anyone else. Well, Roper, on the other hand, he's young and impulsive and emotional and not the best warrior, but he listens to advice. And he knows that he is young and naive and he doesn't know everything. He takes other people's opinions and considers them and decides maybe, is willing to listen and think, okay, maybe they have better advice and maybe their choice, their option, their suggestions are better than mine. So he grows and learns as a character. Now, it might have been a little too rushed. I mean, another criticism, so I do have another criticism, which is, it might have been a little too rushed. Like, it came a little too easy. For, I mean, it wasn't easy, but it felt still like it happened, like, even though it was still, the whole book takes place within a whole year, it still felt like it was too easy. Like, he succeeded very easily. And on the one hand, it was kind of a relief, but on the other hand, when he gained allies, everyone trusted him. But then on the other hand, it does feel a little too much like it happened a little too much overnight. Like, things were easy for them. Now, things are crazy right now throughout the year that this book takes place. But, and they had to, but I think they could have dragged out this whole distrust and this rivalry between him and Uverin a little longer. Now, I don't know what's going to happen in book 2. I mean, I do believe the description implies that Roper still has enemies on the inside that he has to deal with. So, I don't know what's going to happen. It might be a story where just because everything worked out for now for him, maybe it's going to go bad later and there's going to be people that aren't going to trust him again. I don't know. So maybe that's why, and they're in the middle of a war. So I don't know. But either way, this was a pretty good debut. I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was exciting, and I think worth checking out if you haven't checked it out yet. Like I said, I think the other 2 books are already out, so the trilogy, I think it's complete. I don't know if the author's going to write any more books, but the second book is called The Spider, and then the last book is called The Cuckoo. But anyway, this was great. Really, like I said, fun, exciting. And those are my thoughts on The Wolf by Lee Carew, as well as my thoughts on Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldry. keep wanting to say tree, but there's no T in the author's last name. So anyway, currently I'm kind of in between books. I'm reading The Position by Noah Gordon, and I might read some other books as well. So anyway, if you guys like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below if you want to be notified about my latest videos, and if you want to, feel free to share in the comments what books you are currently reading right now and what book did you start the year out with, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!